Tabs open. I'm still a Safari holdout. What can I tell you? Sue me.
It has its advantages. I just had something I was trying to pay for online. Like I was turning on my contacts, and I was like, They're like, oh yeah, it doesn't work on Chrome for some reason.
What?
Yeah, I like,
That
had to
never
use
happens.
Safari.
It's
I guess
always
like
the opposite.
I know. And isn't it like doesn't Firefox like just not even work anymore? Like, I mean, does that still exist?
I
The
don't
Mozilla
know a
like
single
project.
person who. Yeah, Firefox is like the new Netscape
But
navigator.
but it was never bad. Like it wasn't like it. I don't feel like any of the alternatives were any better. Like I
Yeah.
feel like they were all pretty interchangeable. But I guess Chrome has the Google backing, so it's just like it's like Apple. Like you're sort of integrated into one new
Yeah,
service.
right. We have no choice. All right. Speaking of no choice, we are live.
We are live.
Everyone can hear this.
Okay, good. Well, I'm just talking about products. I was listening to a Verge podcast. You know the Verge,
Of
Brandon?
course, yes. I
Yeah,
know The Verge.
yeah. Going paywall, by the way. I just found
Yeah. I mean,
out.
considering how many people talk about The Verge,
Mhm.
it's shocking they haven't already gone
What a
paywall.
Christmas present! What a Christmas present!
All right.
All right. Well, anyway, let's jump into it. Let's do a clean start here. Hail cheaters! Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
Merry Christmas. I'm
And
fine.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Happy
I
Hanukkah.
I don't know why. I just got stung by the Christmas hornet over the weekend, and now every interaction I'm just gonna punctuate it with
Yeah,
Merry
the
Christmas.
Christmas, that old Christmas wasp. You hear so much about.
Absolutely. It's a stinger. It's a stinger.
Mhm.
Speaking of stingers, game week 15. We've got a lot to unpack here, Josh. And I don't
Yeah.
know if it's I think some people would say a bit of a nothing burger with the
Hmm.
Merseyside derby.
I
Other
don't think
people would
so.
say
Something burger, I would
yeah,
say.
it is a something burger. I
Yeah.
mean, two patties at least in this
Hmm.
burger. I would
Absolutely.
suggest
Yeah.
it's sort of like if you take a postponement of the first match of a game week just on its own, you think
Yep.
no big deal. But
Yep.
what happened, Josh, was a ripple effect,
Yes.
and that's kind of what we're here to unpack.
Yeah, I think you're right. A pretty extreme one in the end, too.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, in terms of, I suppose you had some people who went for Holland if they still had him, right? That would have been a reasonable
yeah.
alternative. And
Our
so,
buddy Sam, who we constantly pick on for cascading, and he climbed the
mhm.
ranks through captaining Holland.
Well, did he in the end? Because I feel like in the end,
And
I guess he was still better than Saka, right? So,
yeah,
yeah. And so basically, I mean, just not to put the cart before the horse here, right? Because what ends up happening is you and and again, I have made a pledge this year, Brandon. This is a pledge
mm,
I actually plan to hold,
okay.
despite my great desire to destroy that pledge right now on this pod. My pledge is not to complain about FPL gameplay this year. Okay, so yes, like, is it unfortunate that I was sleeping when all of this came through? I had two transfers. Like I could have rejiggered my team a bit
Hmm.
more. But I wake up to the postponed match. I guess did I wake up? I mean, the problem is the deadline is 90 minutes before the match, anyways, right? So I would have had to wake up at what would have been 6 a.m. our time, right?
You
11
knew
a.m.
not just to press on this a little bit. You knew this was a strong possibility, though, didn't you? As you went to
Yeah,
bed Friday night.
sure. But like they didn't even change the deadline to the first wave of matches. They kept the 6 a.m. deadline.
Okay,
Well,
I
like
feel like
why?
if I
Like
press you
why?
more, I'm going to break your pledge. I'm going to break your pledge. So I'm
Yeah,
not going to
well,
press you
yeah.
more.
It's just like let's get
the game
let's
is
list
the
the
game is
game should
a very narrow sort of tunnel that we're all traveling through, and it's not
absolutely.
going to deviate.
No, and eventually we should be able to change our teams once the clean sheets go up. That's just a common sense approach. That would actually, even people who aren't in the time zone, like you and me, would actually be served by this. And this idea that like no one would be served by this, I don't understand it. Like you could set alarms and no matter where you are in the world, and it would avoid some of this feeling that like sort of only if you're in the UK are you able to like or like
Well,
that
okay.
time zone are you able to
So,
properly set your team
so
for
yeah,
matches.
at the risk of making you angry, I did set my
Mhm.
alarm for 5:30 a.m., knowing
Yeah.
that we would know whether this game was postponed or not.
Well, you're a single, you don't have kids, it's a, sure, you can just sleep, go back to
Okay.
bed for 6 more
Sure.
hours, if you want to. All kinds of, I had to take my 8-year-old to a writing center thing at 10 a.m., I need my beauty rest, Brandon,
Gotcha. Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it shows. If you're listening
That's
to the
true. I got
pod,
good
just go to
skin, better skin than
youtube.com.
you,
You can see Josh's gorgeous
That's true. Look at
visage.
my, yeah, I have no pores, Brandon. Look at
Wow.
your face is so porous. I
I
can see
know. Yeah.
every pore.
It's like it's one of those acne commercials from the 90s, and I'm the before and you're the after. It's incredible.
All right. Well, anyway, so the thing is, what's funny about this, sort of, I guess, is that I'm actually having a good week. I'm up like 200K. Maybe we'll see what happens with the Wolves, with the West Ham Wolves game tomorrow. But I'm almost certainly going to be on a green arrow this week. It's just like it's one of those. It's like I'm on a green arrow in spite of myself, right? And which is fine. Like sometimes you get lucky, and that's good. But like I think like those of us who play the game, and if you're listening to this podcast or creating this podcast, as the case is for me and you, then like I actually care about playing the right way as well, like actually like managing my team
Yeah,
properly
right.
and
Yeah.
not just luck boxing my way into returns. And so I felt a little like it was a kind of frustrating week because uh so I got 8 points from Jimenez off the bench for Salah, which is good. However, if I'd known that the Liverpool match was going to get postponed, I would have kept Vardy, right? Because he had the better fixture that week. And so I lost 4 points, from that. I guess long term, I still slightly prefer having Jimenez. I don't know. Like maybe he has to go now as well. I got
Vardy's
Graves
on
did.
a hot streak. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, so I transferred him out for 10 points, which was great. I
Yeah.
turned him into the worthless João Pedro, who blank fest Pedro.
Yeah.
So that was
There's like an
yeah,
onomatopoeia with the name Jow. I feel like when I see him, I'm like,
yeah.
and it's not like the NCIS, like Jow. It's kind of more like a ja.
It's more
It's a
like
sad
no,
trombone
it's
sort
like
of
when
thing.
you step on a cat's tail by accident, like that kind of
Yeah,
Jow, like
right.
meow, yeah. And so which is fine. Like the rationale I think was fine, and that was basically it was Leicester's third match in 8, 9 days or whatever it was. Vardy had been taken off early in the last 2 matches. He's like 37, and so I was like, well, yeah, like Vardy's probably going to play, but like he'll probably get hooked again in like the 55th minute. I prefer João Pedro both for this fixture and long term. And so then, lo and behold, Vardy plays the full 90, doesn't get either of his returns until after the 85th minute of this match, right? In which time he gets a goal and assist, finishes on 12 in the end while Pedro blank. So that was that. So that irritated me. While that was happening, in the Fulham
Meanwhile,
match, yeah. Meanwhile, you had Raul and Robinson both getting yellow cards within like 3 minutes of each other. And then meanwhile, I'm also kicking myself about sort of going back and forth and I honestly can't remember. I made a case for Palmer, like just straight up captaining him on Blue Sky, like the day before, and then suddenly, I don't know if I just over tinkered or what, but I ended up with Saka vice captain, which I thought was actually pretty close. We can get more into that in a second. And then Saka scores a goal, and it gets ruled out correctly for offside, but further validation that offside or that VAR is a blight on the game, just like the joy killer offers nothing in terms of satisfaction, only removes joy. It's just the ultimate like corporatization
we
of
love
sports,
rules.
right?
Everybody
Yeah,
loves
exactly.
rules.
Rules enforce the fun, right? This like the only person it helps are like the stakes are too high, right? Sports are now too important that we can't allow human error any
Yeah.
longer, right? And
Listen,
so
if the
yeah.
stakes are that high, the stakes are not that high for Fulham.
Yeah, exactly. And
Fulham
then they
will
just show
finish in
these
the range of sixth place
yeah.
to 15th. And
It's
the
just
stakes are
yeah.
quite high for
And the
Arsenal.
whole thing
So
is
if the
so
argument for
shoddy.
the stakes are super high, we have to have VAR is
Yeah.
crushing the stakes for Arsenal.
Yeah, and then all we have to do we have to watch these two dolts like look at a kid like they won't even show us the lines anymore because they know how shoddy the entire
Oh,
process
dude,
is.
I want a
So
live feed. Can I get a live
yeah,
feed of the dolts in Stockley
The
Park.
whole time,
Just
just
every
two
second.
guys. They're like at like a Dell from like 1998, just like squinting at the screen. It's like the whole thing
Yeah.
seems so. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what second did they freeze on? Like, it's like that's like,
Computer enhance.
yeah, exactly. It's like because it's like the whole thing is so imprecise. I mean, maybe when they get semi-automated offside, which they've just punted on for the whole year. I don't know why. Like it was good enough for the World Cup multiple years ago, and they still can't get it, in the Premier League. So, all right. So rant over. In the end, I luck boxed my way into what will be 62 points. So fantastic. Great. I mean, so I'm not complaining about my score. It's just the whole thing felt like really chaotic for me, like
right.
this week. And so good score. How about you? How'd you end up with this week?
Yeah, my joy is a little more. Well, I have less joy, I suppose. I'm on what feels like a gray dot.
Yeah.
I finished on 56 points. I am on a green arrow, and it
Mhm.
could be my 7th green arrow in a row, which
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Mhm.
But I'm like
Be
3
close,
points. I'm
right, with
3
the
points above my safety score. So you
Yeah.
would think if anything happens with Cunha or Aiton Nuri or Bowen tomorrow, that I'll be on a red arrow. And fine.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
This was going to happen. When you get into this run of form, you know that it just can't sustain itself through 38 game weeks. You're
Yep.
going to have to hit a red arrow at some point. And I guess the balm for me is this game week really genuinely did come down to the captaincy. And as I mentioned, I set my alarm to get up to figure out what was going on with the postponement, and my decision that I was planning to make was a defensive one. I
Okay.
was going to get rid of one of my defenders. It turned out that who did I even get rid of? I don't even remember who I transferred out. Oh, it was Mikolenko. So
Right.
Mikolenko's
Okay,
not
so
going to play.
that's a good move, right?
It was,
Yeah, I mean,
so it's
yeah.
a net 2 because I brought in Jury and Timber. I was
Okay.
looking at Timber or Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
Condolences to all those who, and I was advocating for Trent too, in the middle of last week. Like I thought, upside and good fixtures for Liverpool upcoming.
Yep.
Bad transfer when you consider the postponement in the immediate term. So I went for Timber, and then the crucial decision, though, ultimately when I woke up at 5:30 a.m. was the captaincy. And it felt like it was enough just to be proactive to move any armband or vice armband off of Mo Salah.
Right.
And I put it on Saka. My feeling was Saka, we talk when we talk about Saka on the pod, it is always in terms of Saka's floor, which feels just so much higher than all the other premium players.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just given Arsenal's prowess on set pieces, assist potential is so high for
Fulham
Saka.
give up a lot of shots too. Like
Mhm.
that was part of my rationale too. Is I was like, well, they're just going to be giving up a lot of shots and set
Yep.
pieces, and they honestly, I mean, Arsenal scored their one goal on a set piece. It was kind of funny. It's actually the second week in a row that Saliba has, like, and I don't.
Had a ball bounce off of his body for a goal.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Basically, and that's all about that's what good forward. I mean, so there's no
It's positional, right?
It's positional. Exactly. He's in the perfect position to take advantage of it. And so it's just kind of funny that in either case did the ball find him on the first ball, right? It's just 2 second ball goals, in 2 matches, which is just very unusual, especially for somebody who doesn't score a lot of goals.
And something we talked about on the Patreon pod Thursday night was Fulham's home record is really good. And obviously Fulham are a really strong team this season, but at home they have never failed to score and they have never kept a clean sheet.
Right.
So and I do want to be careful that all of the predictions or premonitions one would have about Fulham Arsenal, well, duh, why didn't we have the same premonitions about Spurs Chelsea? Perennially a blockbuster match, and neither teams have terribly good defenses. So in hindsight, I'm like, God, the Palmer captaincy was right there.
That
makes it super annoying.
It does. It just makes me a little salty, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, and there's no reason, there's no it just is it's just one of those. It's just a bummer, right? There's no what are you gonna do, right? It's done.
And then Palmer, watching that Spurs Chelsea match, knowing that everything that Palmer does, and it was we both have Palmer, so it wasn't horrifying. But knowing that like the majority of people, and I said like the top million had Palmer captained, everything Palmer did was not great for us. And
Yeah.
everything that Palmer did in that Spurs match was so dirty in that sort of like he knew what he was doing. And
I mean,
culminating in the Panenka penalty.
but those Spurs fouls in the box are, I mean, I honestly like genuinely, they have to fire Ange. Like
no,
you
stop it.
cannot
Stop
no,
it.
no, I'm sorry, but like you cannot keep a manager on who cannot set up a defense. I like there is
That's
it
not
is
a defensive thing.
isn't
Both of those fouls were committed by their midfielders, Basuma and Sarr, both of
okay.
whom I think if we were
Midfielders
talking,
have to defend too, though. I mean, we're
yes, I'm not
Dutch
saying they
style,
don't.
Brandon. Everybody has to be everywhere.
Sure, yeah. But I think the argument would be he doesn't have the personnel, and Basuma has been horrible since he moved to Spurs from Brighton. And Sarr, I like Sarr better than Basuma, but he's just a little too green still.
Yeah,
And those were fouls that us being U.S. Soccer followers, this is a thing that I feel like came up time and time again with Greg Berhalter as the U.S. national team manager. Is like, to what do you pin it on the manager versus your
sure.
players are just idiots?
Yeah, but I mean, like we all see the way a coach can come in and coach up even players that don't seem especially competent at defending like very
Mhm.
quickly, right?
Yeah.
And I just like, I mean, to me, it's just so clear now that they can't win anything with him, and like you just can't win if you're not going to prioritize defense at all.
I
And
think the
he
stat
doesn't he
was
doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to change his style, though, right? I mean,
well, he's on
yeah,
record as not wanting to change it. So it's
yeah,
it's really feast or famine with Ange, where if
yeah,
you got Ange the perfect personnel setup, you could achieve incredible things.
yeah.
If you don't, you have 19 losses in
Yeah.
43 Premier League
But
matches, which is bad.
this is like it's he's Marcelo Bielsa, right? He plays this exciting brand of football that doesn't win anything, right? And I guess that's like it's honestly it's fine. Like, as a neutral, like it's great. Like Spurs
Um,
lose all the time and they win all the time, and every match is completely wild. They've waxed Man City and Man United at their home stadiums this
sure.
year, like and then they just kind of lose to everybody at at
Yeah.
home, and it's crazy. Like
You get into
it's
really
yeah,
philosophical territory there of what is it? What is it to win? Do you have to
right.
win trophies in
That's
order to
true.
be a
Yeah,
football club? And I
it
which
brings you
which
back
I
to
do not
yeah,
agree with at
yeah. I
all.
get it comes back to the VAR thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it just like they do make the game more fun? Like having a
Yeah.
manager who does not care if they let in 4 goals or
Hmm.
more. Like it is fun. Like
Yeah.
it would drive me crazy as a Spurs supporter, but
Yeah.
maybe they're good with it. I don't know.
He
Yeah.
doesn't care. Those 4 goals, that was all part of the plan, part of
It's
the process.
all part of the process. Yeah, trust the process. Okay, it's a multi-year
Uh-huh.
process. So I mean, yeah. So Palmer, and you knew like, he's one of those four. He's like Mario Balotelli, where there's just something about the way that Palmer steps up to take these pens that you just know there's like no chance that
Yeah.
it's not going to work out.
I
And
have this
yeah,
feeling, Josh, that somebody has told Cole Palmer that his grandparents will come back to life if he
if
like
he gets enough of
scores.
them, yeah, maybe that's what it is. I
he's,
mean,
he's
yeah,
just so
I guess
thick.
at least we have Palmer. I mean, we're talking like he's
Yeah.
universally owned. I mean, the effective ownership for me was like right. So for anyone who doesn't know, effective ownership is basically how many points you get for somebody. So if you own a player, you own 100% of that player. If you
Yeah.
captain them, you own 200% of the player, right? And so he was hurting me by like 33%, at least in the Elks Lodge. I'm sure it was maybe, I don't know, who knows what it was kind of overall. Elks Lodge being our longtime private mini league. And so it was like 33%, right? And so it was like, that's bad, but like Cunha has a higher owner, like, you know what I mean? Like they're just regular
Really?
players.
Cunha does?
Maybe he's like at 35 or something,
Wow.
anyway, but
Okay.
it's like, maybe that may just be like total ownership. Maybe it's
Okay.
not like, I don't know. A lot of people benched him this week, although he's probably coming on for most managers
Yeah,
now.
seriously. Yeah.
So maybe it's a little higher. Anyway, but the point being like a 33% owned player, right, which is effectively what he turned into, right, when you didn't captain him and you had him, it's
Mhm.
just not going to actually destroy your game week. It's going to hurt you in your mini leagues, right? If you're like competing for first and you're in, you were in first and you had Saka and somebody was in second, they had Palmer. But and so I think that opens up an interesting. I mean, it just really, I think it opens up a real captaincy debate now with Palmer and any kind of even moderately strong fixture. There's a real debate about him versus. I mean, obviously Salah has been so good, right? But and Salah didn't play this week, and so out of sight, out of mind, maybe for a minute. But even just like looking ahead to game week 16. Let's see, we have Liverpool hosts Fulham and Chelsea hosts Brentford. It's genuinely pretty close, right? Like on the one hand, yes,
both teams from West London they're basically have the same matchup.
Yeah, exactly.
In a vacuum, who does better?
And on the one hand, you've got Salah didn't play this week, and so he's certain to start this match. Although there are Champions League matches at midweek, whereas Palmer isn't playing in Europe right now for Chelsea, and so they're hosting Brentford. I don't know. I mean, I think you can make a pretty strong case for Cole Palmer this week.
Well, why not Saka again? Saka is home as well, hosting Everton.
He's on the bad list for a couple days, Brandon.
Okay, naughty step for Saka.
Yeah, he's on the naughty step. Let's see how I feel about him.
Because his teammates can stay on side. And I feel like it's hardly Saka's fault.
It's crazy that they play without a forward. I mean, it's just like the whole team is relying on him creating chances. Like
Havertz had a joke of a match. He was insanely bad. He
got the assist for the Saliba goal, but
that should have been Havertz's goal. In that Havertz, if he's a proper number 9, he should be scoring that.
Exactly. I agree. I thought it was a super frustrating Havertz match as well, and and they were talking again about Isak in the summer or whatever, but they kind of went into this summer without a forward. And I know they have Gabriel Jesus, but he's like a forward who doesn't score, right? And so he can't help you in situations like that.
That story has been written. We were talked into it not having been written, being incomplete last season, but now Jesus his Premier League career is pretty much done.
It's crazy. Like, remember when they brought them? It was only like a year and a half ago, right? When they brought in Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, and they was talking about how this was like this incredible move for Arsenal. Like a year and a half later, those guys can't even get into the squad, right? And it honestly looks like great. Just in general, I do feel like Pep is a little bit like Alex Ferguson, where it's like if he's selling the player on, like you probably don't want to. It's like Billy Bean when he was like in his prime with the Oakland A's, right? It's like if he's selling, you probably don't want to be buying, right? It's like
meanwhile,
they have like such
Cole
a good
Palmer is
that's true.
Could win the title.
Touche. All right, touche. You got me. You did get me there. Right?
I gotcha.
Sometimes I walk myself into these corners.
That's why this is good content, Josh.
That's true. So I'm gonna have to give some thought to that. I mean, the classic move now would be for me not to go to like immediately reward Palmer. And then have Salah, go off on Saturday. I don't know. I'm gonna give me a day. Give me a day to think about it.
Yeah, and then I mean we'll get into it. Let's talk about it.
You're right. Okay, so we're missing
fixture preview because there's a strong captaincy candidate who is the first match of the game week, which we know is a no-no.
Oh well, it's actually it's a chaotic weekend ahead, Brandon. There's no early match on Saturday. And then there are 2 matches played next Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So 2 Sunday night matches on at the same time. I don't know why. So that's happening too. So there's lots to discuss. I'm just getting it all out on this pod, Brandon. And
you really hate the bureaucrats at the Premier League
I know
right now.
It's been 16 weeks of me holding my tongue, and now it's all coming out. But get it out of my system.
Fair enough.
All right. So Palmer annihilated Saka in the vice captaincy battle. Gabriel missed his second game week in a row. Tricky spot, I think, for Gabriel owners, myself included. The only answer, as far as I am concerned, is let's see. Does he even make the bench for the Champions League match? Right? Like, does he start? If he starts the Champions League match, you are fine. If he's on the bench, probably fine too. If he's not in the 18, that could be trouble for the weekend.
Sure. Quivior was the blame equal shared between Quivior and Raya, perhaps. Quivior is certainly more to blame for the.
Is that how you say his name?
Sure. How would you say it?
Kiwior? I don't know. Quiwior? I feel like
Who?
you're skipping the I at the beginning.
Okay.
KIW. Yeah, I don't know,
Okay.
but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Who knows? Who
I don't know why
cares?
I stopped you. I don't know why I decided to stop you in the middle of your
I,
speech there. Sorry.
all
Yeah.
all all I'm saying is if there is the option to not play Quivior, they're
Yeah.
gonna take it.
Yeah. All
So
right.
like to just
That's
to
fair.
like
Yeah.
underline your point of if Gabriel is anywhere near that Champions League squad midweek, that you're good to
Yeah.
go for
Yeah.
sure.
I think so. I think so too. So let's, there's really no point in even talking about it as far as I'm concerned because we just don't know anything yet, and we'll know a lot more because these Champions League. I mean, the Champions League is. I am now officially on board with the new format, Brandon. I don't know if we've
Mm,
talked about this in a while,
many
but
times, yes.
yeah. But I'm just going to repeat myself
Go
again then
on, yeah, do
because
it.
I just think it works. Like I like how much variety there is. It is actually more fun. I genuinely like. I don't know. Can you pull up as I'm talking here, like who's actually playing who this
Oh, sure. Yeah,
midweek?
yeah. I'll pull up the midweek.
Yeah.
Just on Tuesday, you've got sure, Dynamo Zagreb hosting Celtic, Girona hosting Liverpool, Atalanta hosting Real Madrid, Leverkusen hosting Inter Milan. Oh my
Right.
God.
Right. I didn't mean every single
Oh,
match. I just meant the Premier League.
okay. So Liverpool is away. Girona and
Okay.
Villa are away. RB Leipzig,
Oh,
and then
cool.
on Wednesday for the Premier League, City are away. Juventus and Arsenal being the lone Premier League home team in the Champions League, hosting Monaco.
Okay.
So I don't know if Juventus, I've not been following them too closely. I don't think that they've been pulling up trees this season in Serie A.
Yeah.
But still, that's not like a
Champ.
pushover match.
No,
But I do
top
think
four for sure. Like, in Serie A for sure. I was looking at the table a while ago. I pulled it up as we're talking here.
I think it's generally though a light lift for the Premier League teams. Villa
Yeah.
away Leipzig
Sixth.
might be the worst matchup, and I don't know.
I mean, that's
But
not a bad matchup though. I mean, RB Leipzig, like especially away, I think that's it's a tricky. That could
oh,
be a
for sure,
tricky match. Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying. I think that they might have the worst of it. Aston
Yeah.
Villa this
Oh, I
week.
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think and I guess that's what I like about it is that it's like every Champions League window now, there are a handful of matches that are really uninteresting, but there are always a couple of interesting ones too, right? Because there's so many clubs now. And so like it is sort of fun that you're like every week you're like, who are they going to play? Like who is the who's playing who? And it has actually added a little more fun, like more than I was expecting. So
Mhm.
and I'm not the one who has to get tired from playing these extra matches. I can just get to watch them on the
Sitting
on
on
the
your couch.
television, Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah, sitting on my couch, exactly.
Rubbing your belly.
Yeah, patting my belly. Exactly. So all right. So Gabriel, we'll find out more. All right. We're moving through the talking points here, Brandon, from this
Yes.
weekend.
Yes.
Mbomo's revenge. You noted you send out the little weekly newsletter, the old
Yes.
mini league mate, which
Yes.
we'll free plug them because
We love it.
they've always been very good to us
Yeah.
over the
If
years.
you run a mini league with your pals and you're like, I have not, how do I keep people engaged? Mini League
Yep.
Mate is a pretty cool service. They send
Yeah.
you like a robust PDF full of stats just for the people in your league that
Yeah.
just kind of generates some conversation week to week. So that's cool.
It's
Yeah. So when I
yeah.
sent it out to our personal league and the sort of like the sort of like deadline dossier came through shortly after Mbomo did his thing,
Mhm.
and Mbomo was the most transferred player out in our mini
Yeah.
league, which is
Yeah.
certainly reflective of most of the fantasy game.
Yeah.
So yeah, people have lost patience with Mbomo, and he destroyed it.
Yeah,
Haters.
he actually was incredibly close to having 2 goals and an assist in that match.
Yeah, right. He had that sort of like he was wide left
Mhm.
mistake by the defense or goalkeeper, I don't call, and
Yeah, keeper.
yeah,
Yeah. And it was just the defender, whoever it was, had a clearance like right at the last second. Like it was, yeah, John Stones versus Liverpool levels
right,
of last
right.
second. So yeah, I think, and so now it's sort of interesting to figure out what to do. I mean, I still could consider moving him on. So in Boma, they play away to Chelsea. So he probably at the very least is on my bench this week. To start anyway. But I mean, it's sort of like, I mean, I don't know about you, but my feeling was it just was never a priority to move him on, right?
Yeah.
Because Especially because the home fixture in 15, and I mean Newcastle are much less strong, away from home than they are at home. And so I was like, well, they could this could be a battle if nothing else. And so his run of fixtures ahead not great though. I mean, it's Chelsea away, Forest, who are a tough opponent, Brighton away, Arsenal home. I mean, like, I guess if you want to look all the way to January 4th in game week 20, they do play Southampton. So I could move him this week. I mean, the question is there some player that I really love that I want to move him
I
to?
know.
Like Bruno is not like Bruno in theory would be a player I would strongly consider, but they play away to Man City this week, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not the ideal week to do it, even if Man City are, shipping goals right now.
Mbomo is the ultimate "what have you done for me lately" player, and it's just like the disrespect that I am
Mhm.
also guilty of Mbomo, just sort of like, "You're in my fantasy team by the grace of God, Brian Mbomo."
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's got 9 goals and
yeah,
2 assists.
I know,
Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
killer, he's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I don't know what everyone's complaining about, so it's sort of like, to echo your thought, like, get rid of Mbomo, but for whom?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that person has emerged. I think Bruno after the Manchester derby becomes that much more appealing.
I think he's up there, and that is
Hmm.
something I think about when I consider possibly bringing in Trent this week.
Hmm.
Is whether I want to do that, and that would pretty much gobble up money to go from Mbomo to Fernandez. So that would be one thing. I mean, I don't know, like the Enzo thing. I like to me, this is just like a little. I mean, it's an incredible run from him, like to be sure, 3 goals and 3 assists. It feels like a kind of fluky little
Yeah,
moment. It does not feel sustainable to me.
yeah.
So we'll
Sure,
see, I
like, well,
guess. Yeah.
if again, just to go back to the Mbomo comparison, Mbomo plays in a role in which his remit is goals, assists,
Yeah. Create
facilitate the
chances.
attack. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Enzo, like, he is kind of playing a new position uh in the last month or so,
Right.
and still it just feels a little too fluid with Enzo. I
Yeah,
agree with you.
exactly. It doesn't mean I will never ever own Enzo, but it's like this is like because sometimes it does turn into a lasting thing. Like I remember Solly March a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
for Brighton, like had this run where it was like, well, I can't believe this because Solly March has never been the kind of player that you would own in fantasy. Like for years and years and years, Enzo hasn't been at Chelsea that long, right? But he's been there long enough for us to have a real. I mean, he had no goals and no assists for the first 10 weeks of the season, right? It's not like
Yeah.
and last year I think he had, what was it? He had 3 goals and 3 assists, right, on
He was
26
also
starts.
dropped
Yeah.
from the team.
Right.
Basically, it wasn't
Yeah.
working, and they
Yeah.
were playing Lavia and Caicedo in the double pivot when it was working
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's very in the mix.
Yeah. Then there's something to be said for just grabbing a player in a great run of form. I mean,
Yeah,
God,
sure.
you can do worse with your moves. That's for sure. And I think with God, this run for Chelsea is so good though too. Like, am I gonna like talk myself into Enzo by the end of this pod? But it's
Hey,
like
I'm
they
already
have. I
talking
mean,
myself
yeah.
not into any player, but I'm talking myself into Todd Bowley, like galaxy
Ooh.
braining all of us.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, I think the manager deserves a lot of credit, right? Like,
Apparently.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but the run for Chelsea is fantastic.
Yeah.
Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich. God, like when is the next bad fixture? You've got to go to January 25th, Brandon, to find a fixture that isn't
In the
like
year
fairly.
2027, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Before you
Yeah.
can finally find a bad
Yeah.
match for Chelsea. So I don't know. So maybe Enzo's on the table. I don't really. I mean, Nicholas Jackson, you brought him in 2 weeks ago. Obviously, you've only had one actual start. You have any thoughts on how he played today?
Awful. So the appeal of Nicholas Jackson coming into game week 14 or 15, I should say, was, all of the fear and trepidation you had about Nico Jackson last season, where he was is slow in reaction, clumsy on the ball. It felt like he was just playing much better, and he was in the zone with the rest of Chelsea.
Yeah.
Against Spurs, I felt the old Nico Jackson, where he was slow on the ball, not making great decisions, not very strong in the hold-up play. He
Yeah.
had some decent layoffs and all of that, but he showed me nothing that would say, I'm happy I brought him in.
Right.
So he would, if I was a Nicholas Jackson owner, even 1 or 2 game weeks old, he would be on a very, very, very short leash. And, something that I guess becomes a theme now for the next couple of episodes, Josh, is how I need to figure out when in the next 2 to 3 weeks I'm going to play my wild card.
Yeah. I mean, it's right. Because when is the deadline if you have not played
It's
your
like
wild
the
card
end of
is like,
December, basically. The last
yeah.
I have to play it before the deadline of like the last game week of December, roughly the 29th, thereabouts. I can't quite remember the
Okay.
exact
Yeah.
day.
You should make sure you get the exact date.
Yeah, I should figure that out. But I mention it just because I was thinking about this today. Like, Nicholas Jackson is not on a wild card team right now.
Right.
He is, and I think the appeal of him was a luxury transfer where you think, as you mentioned, the run of fixtures for Chelsea is incredible,
Right.
and he still has that sort of Damocles over him with the 5th yellow card incoming. And I don't know if part of what I saw against Spurs was he was kind of a little bit within himself, like not like
Yeah.
does Nicholas Jackson need to have that wilding freedom to to just like give up yellow cards to just let
Yeah.
him be in his zone? I don't know, but I didn't love what I saw today.
Yeah, I felt like he seemed really upset when he was taken off the pitch too, which is like kind of I don't know.
Well,
It was,
yeah, don't you feel like players seem upset when they're taken off in that situation because they have to basically show for the cameras because they know the cameras are on them and the fans like, I know I played horribly.
right.
I
Yeah.
need to acknowledge that and show
Yeah.
that I understand that what I did was not good.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. That might be. I can't tell if that's giving them too much credit or not. But yeah, you might be because he's a pretty young guy still
Yeah.
too, right? So he might
Oh,
just be. Yeah.
speaking of horrible, well, I don't recall ever seeing this at the new White Hart Lane. The waterfall of trash on the pitch. Like what was that?
I don't
Give me
know.
a. I mean, I understand like the battle of the bridge and all. Just
Yeah.
is this just like a manufactured sort of? I mean, it's not manufactured. Seems very harsh. Is it really just down to that? It's really lame. Oh, it's just like I'm gonna crumple up my program and throw it
I
at
know.
somebody trying to take a corner kick.
I don't love
It's
that. It's like
dumb.
the nicest stadium too. Like in like in terms of
Yeah.
like kind of the
Yeah,
more
yeah, you
modern, at
come out of
least.
the
You know.
cheese
Yeah.
cave and you
Yeah.
crumple up your
I know.
imagine getting hit with a little bit of baked brie on the
I
head while
have
you're
a
trying to take
real
a corner kick.
I have a real problem with littering in general, where it's like I can't believe it. You know what I mean? It's like well, like whenever you see like littering in general, I'm just like maybe this is like some like Midwest coded feeling or whatever. I'm just
No,
like
I feel it. I
yeah,
feel it.
it's like it's stunning to me. You know, like people who like it's to not mind yourself or to throw something anywhere. It's like
I
it's
know.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I've put so many pieces of gum in like crumpled up gas station receipts just to be a good citizen.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's the little things that keep
Yeah.
society together, Brandon. All right,
Yeah.
all right. Let's move through a couple more here, though. We're covering everything right now. It was a
Yeah.
lot. See, I mean, you said it was nondescript, but I
Yeah.
think there was actually a ton that happened this weekend in the
Mhm.
as you can tell here. So,
Yeah.
Man City with another draw. The defense still looks terrible. It's it's just clearly not feels like it's not going to be their season. I mean, it's like famous last words with them, like never count
Yeah.
them out. And I certainly am not counting them out, but it feels like it's going to be a hard
It's funny,
road
they
back.
they draw against Crystal Palace and just like 1 point in the league table, suddenly Crystal Palace are sort of like peeking around the fence, sort of like,
I know,
"Hey, what's going on up there at the
I
top of the
know,
table?
I
We might
know.
have something to say about it." It's just like they're always lingering, but
Yeah,
still, uh, from the midfield to the defense, Ortega had a bad match too.
yeah.
It's just all kind of grotesque.
I mean, Chelsea overtaking Arsenal on the table was kind of
Yeah,
surprising. They didn't
yeah.
kind of snuck up into second place there.
They really did.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel for Arsenal fans because, well, I feel for them because I feel like I am, even though I'm wearing my Fulham cap.
Hmm.
And all respect, Fulham will stymie every Arsenal title challenge from here to eternity, and we take pride in that. But
Right.
um, Arsenal are playing great football.
They
They
were,
just
although I Fulham went toe to toe with them today. I would say
yep,
I didn't
yep,
feel like they really gave Arsenal a lot of chances. The one goal they conceded was kind of a
yeah.
somewhat lucky bounce, perhaps.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and I think that's kind of incredible. Issa Diop is kind of a comic figure in recent Premier League center backs, and with a Bassi Diop center back pairing, you think, okay,
yeah,
at least two big chances are going to be given up here, and they played really, really well. Bassi was to credit for the offside call on the Saka goal where he stepped up like very so anyway, yeah,
yep.
Fulham played really well.
Yeah, who got the assist for the was it for the
Oh,
for
so Kenny
Jimenez goal?
Tete,
It
yeah,
was
the right
Tete.
back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That was a nice, that whole sequence was amazing, and a
for sure.
really great goal from Jimenez. Like had to be absolutely perfect angle to beat
Yeah.
Raya there. Really nice
He
goal.
is a elite finisher for sure.
Yeah.
I remember
Yep.
it from when he was at Wolves, and he's just like, I mean,
Yep.
earnest moment of the pod. Let's
Yeah, yeah.
give it up for Raul Jimenez for his fight back to basically
Absolutely.
doing exactly what he was doing at Wolves.
I think we're blending earnestness with with incisive FPL
Yes,
commentary.
great.
Um, with Man United, Bruno goal, another Ahmad return. Team as a whole, though, still very unpredictable. I would say maybe I'm thinking more of the defense here, but just in general, I feel like it still gives me a little pause. Like I'm like, what do
Yeah.
I do with this team? Like, I guess Bruno, I'd feel pretty good about. He's obviously essential to everything going
Yeah.
forward. Ahmad, more or less, because he's so cheap, maybe. Although his price is kind of getting up there now. But
What's his price now?
he's up to 5.1, so still not that
Okay.
much, but just he's kind of a couple already. He'll probably come up
Yeah.
another point or two. Um, and he was benched last week, and so or midweek, I should say, right in game week 14. So
Hmm.
maybe there's a little bit of long-term starting risk there with him. Even though, I mean, obviously, like in terms of fantasy returns, we see these assists and think, oh, this guy's a lock, but it's sometimes
No
that
one's a
isn't
lock.
always. Yeah, no one's a
Yeah.
lock outside of
It
Bruno.
just seems like Amarim is intent on giving everybody a shot for
Yeah,
for weeks and weeks and months on
yeah,
end. And Amarim clearly came into Old Trafford with no expectation that he would win anything or get them into Europe or anything like that. I feel
yeah,
like the rest of this season could just be a constant rotation of who wants to be here next season and
yeah,
him
yeah,
trying to figure out what he's going to ask the board for in the
yeah,
summer. So
yeah.
I agree with you. Like Bruno being the captain and undroppable and actually being a route to fantasy points is really the only thing. And Onana was the big red flag for Manchester United for me this weekend. Like him effectively being at fault for two of those goals, just
Yeah.
showing his
It's funny because
brain dead tendencies.
he kind of like, I felt like he kind of got away from that for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah,
I feel
for
like we
sure.
weren't
I
really,
agree.
yeah. Like it's like sometimes like a goalkeeper, it's a little bit like a referee where it's like if you don't
Yeah,
notice them, that means like things are
yeah,
going well, right?
yes,
And
right,
so,
totally.
all right, well, let's end on one final note here, Brandon, which is this is a short one, which is, do we just have to give up on the Semenyo value pick dream? Like I did a couple weeks ago. It's funny because he's still heavily touted. In fact, just looking around, he's like one of the top kind of transfer options for people this week, and so I feel like a slightly relevant question. Like I just my feeling with this squad is basically just that y- like they just don't score enough, right, to make him a viable like. Nor are they quite put together as well as like Fulham, and like I mean I don't know. It's like I feel like I'm out on Semenyo, even though I like rate him very highly. I think he's very talented, but like he's just I don't know. It's not really happening for him so far.
No, yeah, Semenya hasn't been interesting since that Southampton match in game week 6,
Yeah,
and I think for whatever reason, fantasy managers are still holding on to that vision, and he's really done nothing apart from Of course, a goal. Everyone
Yeah,
scores one against Man
everyone
City
scores in
these
Man
days.
City, but yeah, outside of that, yeah, you're right. And it's
No,
one, two,
I
three,
just
four,
like,
five.
yeah,
Yeah, it's 8 blanks outside of the Man City match. Yeah,
yeah. I genuinely can't conceive of how you would just like waste another thought on Semenyo. No disrespect. I enjoy watching him play, but
yeah,
the sort of like fantasy honey trap. He's
yeah.
not even a honey trap anymore. If you're still talking about Semenyo, you're living in the past.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Evan Nelson, maybe I rate a little more highly as a fantasy asset. We're not
Yeah,
talking about them as players, right? Like as a
right.
player, I rate Semenyo very highly. But it's
Same.
whether he's a great
Yeah.
fantasy asset, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right, well let's move on, Brandon. Want to do a quick shout out for Patreon, as we mentioned on last week's pod. It's sort of like our pledge month here on the
Mm.
podcast. So if you would like to support the Cheaters, and while I'm actually, why don't you do the little picture, Brandon? Because we got a couple new patrons who
Oh,
responded
yeah.
to the pledge. So why don't I pull them up and you can
I love it.
do
When
a
we
little
say the
picture here.
pledge, people, it's a call and response sort of a thing.
That's right.
But yeah, if you don't know what it's all about, Patreon is a great way to say thanks for what Josh and I do on this free pod week in, week out. And what you get in return for your support through Patreon is more Always Cheating content. You get an extra ad-free podcast every week, as well as access to our Discord and all the bells and whistles that come with that Discord,
Yep.
including a great community, a bunch of mini leagues that you can participate, easy access to me and Josh if you want, quick and dirty rate my teams, transfer advice week in, week out. And also, you know what? What I love most about the Discord is I have a little Wordle community and I post my Wordle score every night. And that's
Is
what I
that
love
right?
about it.
You post
Yeah,
it every single night?
every
Oh,
night. Yeah.
how do you like
Because
that?
I'm a midnight Wordler.
Hmm.
All of my midnight Wordlers, please shout out right now.
Rise up. Yeah.
Rise up. But yeah, again, you go to patreon.com slash always cheating, and there are different levels where you can support at different price tiers. You get different things at those tiers. So check it out if you like always cheating, and we really appreciate it.
Great. And a quick thanks to TJ, Tyler Moen, and Patrick, who all became patrons
Nice. What up, Tyler?
in December. And it's obviously as the season goes on, it's the growth as you'd expect, right? Not a lot of people
Yeah.
are joining fantasy leagues at week 16 or whatever. So all new Patreon supporters, people who've been listening for a long time who want to join, even just to say even if they don't really want any bells and whistles and they just want to say thank you, then that is very much appreciated.
Keep your bells
too.
and whistles to yourself. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's look ahead now, Brandon, to it felt like we talked for a long time. It was actually only like 45 minutes or so. But let's look ahead, Brandon. Now
Can I lay down for the rest of the podcast? Would
I
that
know,
be
I am
admissible?
standing. Standing at a standing desk right now as
Me
we do
too.
this. So, how are you? Yeah,
we're both
look at
standing.
us. Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps me to I stay focused. I feel like if I'm
Yeah.
standing. When I was in debate in high school, there was a guy who actually that was his. I was in what's kind of called like policy debate, speed debate, Brandon. And so there was a
Okay.
guy though who did the opposite, where he would debate seated, like, and he would just talk, very quickly, seated and it was very unusual. And all of us, everyone else stood, and that was kind of his thing.
He had to be seen. Was he in a
Yeah.
wheelchair by any chance?
No, that was his style. I think his name was Takis. He had a really cool. Anyway, I don't want to get down the debate road. I love talking.
Sounds
high
interesting.
school debate. It was very interesting. So Gameweek 16 kicks off on Saturday. So we have 5 matches on Saturday, 4 on Sunday, and then another craptacular match on Monday. Bournemouth
West
hosting,
Ham again. Like it's like
they
when mom
own
keeps
Monday.
serving you the
They-
same garbage casserole. She's like,
it's their
no.
spot. It's just like no one. Yeah, I don't know why they're always on Monday. So or they're a Monday, or they're like the late game on Saturday. It's like somehow West Ham are they're the league's least interesting team, and they're on constantly.
Gotta have the spotlight.
Yeah, exactly. No offense to West Ham supporters. We had a great time at the
plenty of
at the
offense
London
as far as
Stadium
I'm
last year.
concerned. Yeah.
Well, not to this. Well, some supporters, not
not to
most
the
of them, though.
supporters.
No,
yes,
that's what
but
I was saying. The supporters. Yeah. I like the stadium. Had a great experience. Like the fans.
What would you say to
respect the fans.
Lopetegui if he were listening right now? If he were a listener,
Ooh, that's a good question. He
how would
is a
you dance
listener.
around
I'm
that?
sure
Like,
he's listening. Yeah.
imagine you met
Yeah.
him at a cocktail party.
Yeah,
Sort of
that's a
how would you
question.
work that? Be like, hey,
Yeah.
I've really I really love the Premier League as a, as a
I think you
product.
go. Is he? I should know this. Is he
He's
Spanish?
Spanish.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
think I would just talk about Spain. I think
Yeah.
that's what you do. You don't talk sports at all, right? You just go,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah.
the last thing he probably wants to talk about right now anyway. So that's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, maybe you like get him. He's probably gonna be back there soon. So be like, hey, don't you wish you were in that Spanish weather right now? It's pretty wet and dreary around here, right? So anyway, all right. So game week 16, we got a nice spread. Of course, there are Champions League and Europa League matches at midweek, and so be very wary with your transfers. I actually have a couple transfers that I'm considering, and I'm just on the fence about whether I want to. I think I'm just going to wait though. Given we saw just this week the advantage of holding off as long as possible with
Mhm.
the postponed fixture, and that is, I mean, it'll be fun. Now we do have a Liverpool double game week ahead, so those of us who held onto our triple captainships, we have what will hopefully be a good opportunity, right, to triple captain Salah in the weeks ahead. So yeah, but I think the schedule is kind of interesting this weekend. Yeah, no early match, and then 4 on Saturday, late match, Forest Villa. That's actually kind of a fun match now, sort of low
Mhm.
key fun match, Brandon.
Totally.
And then yeah, then all the kind of European teams play on Sunday. Outside of Villa, I suppose. And Arsenal, actually, no, it's just a spread. Yeah, I don't know why there are two late games. Maybe there's some reason for that. Maybe there's like a sort of marathon in London that day, I don't know. I'm not sure why there's two matches that are starting so late on Sunday. Let alone two of them. One would be something, but two, I don't know. So it's like every week the schedule is different, and I guess that's just part of the fun.
I'm looking up
Yeah.
London Marathon. When is this happening? London Marathon, sponsored by TSC, whatever that is. You
Some
could
like
cycle or walk it. I hate how April. It's in late April, so
Okay,
no
so who
marathon.
knows? Yeah, who knows then? So yeah, I think as far as my moves go for this game week, and actually, you know what? I can pull up my team here as we're talking, Brandon, so you
Yeah,
can
do it. Hmm.
take a look. Yeah, I'm a little on the fence, to be honest. I feel like there's just some unanswered questions. Like the big one for me is I don't want to do anything until I know what's going on with Gabriel. Right? If he doesn't play,
Hmm.
then I have some decisions to make. I mean, Greaves didn't even make the 8 team today, right? So I feel like him as a
Hmm.
backup option is who knows? I mean, he did play at midweek, and somebody just didn't want to overexert him. But either
It
way, right?
seems
It's
strange to leave him
yeah,
out of the squad
yeah, and
if that's the case.
exactly we're running into the festive period here, so he's a bit of a problem, and so
Yeah.
and I really would ideally not start Gvardiol either, right? I don't feel good about even though I've actually had he's done okay for me. I basically got a return every other week from him since I brought him in, but I just don't feel great about keeping him long term
Yeah.
either. And so as is, like my team is fine, but I have two transfers, and so I guess the moves I would be considering would be like one that would be actually very simple would be to go Gavardiol to Trent, and then I could move Konsa to Colwell, right? And so I could sort of fix two defensive problems at once. I mean, Konsa is not like an urgent move out, but that would
Hmm.
like I don't feel great about his chances of keeping a clean sheet in this match. And then
Yeah.
his fixtures going forward. I mean, yeah, they play Man City and Newcastle in the two following, so it's not a terrible time to move him on. That's for sure. I don't see
Yeah.
him keeping a clean sheet any of the next 3 game weeks.
Right, but I wonder, like, if you can stem that tide. The fixtures do turn
Yeah,
decent, like,
but it's almost like I'd rather just transfer him back in at that point then, or you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's
right,
like because and
or
again,
wild card him in, for example.
this is where the Greaves situation becomes a problem, right? Because you have I've got Fulham's Robinson on my bench, right? But they play Liverpool away in game week 16, so
Yeah.
not a great fixture. Greaves, who knows if he'll start that match or not, right? But either way, it's a way to Wolves. I mean, Wolves, their defense is about as bad as Spurs, but like you have to assume they're going to score a couple of goals in that one as well. So, so yeah, I think that's so I could be in some trouble there, and so making some defensive moves feels like the sensible route. The like wild card fun route would be to because like clearly I don't want to be starting Raul and Solanke, right? And so
Mhm.
one route would be to, or I don't know, Solanke, of course, Solanke's great, way to Southampton, but Raul or Mbomo, those are both kind of like not ideal. So I could move Mbomo to Enzo, and then I would have enough money to go Raul to Isak. So that would be
Mm.
the like
Mhm.
give up on your defense, just
Mhm.
go for it
The Ange
with attacking moves.
Postecoglou
The
tactic.
Ange route, exactly. So that is the like kind of fun option, right? That would
Uh-huh.
be that, so that's one route. And so I guess those are the two that feel the most appealing to me. Are those two
Okay.
routes? Either fix I'm not, I guess because otherwise it's like, I guess I could go Mbomo to Enzo, and then I don't know. Actually, that might free up enough money for me to go Konsa to Trent. So that'd be another move too. That'd be kind of like a slightly wild move, but
All right.
that would work as well. And then it still kind of leaves me. I guess in that case, I would just start Mbomo away to Chelsea and just bench Jimenez, which is not a terrible move to make, by the way, because they do play Southampton on December 22nd, the week after the Liverpool match. So it'd be great to have him for that match.
Yeah.
So that might be actually a move that would make sense. Even starting him away to Liverpool is not like an absolute disaster, but it's just obviously not preferable. So slightly tricky week.
Yeah, I on Mbomo and Colwill, I just think one thing that was abundantly clear to me in that Spurs Chelsea match was, whew, Chelsea have a lot of glittering talent up front.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's nothing. It's chewing gum and twigs in the back.
Mm, wow. It's
I
poetic.
if I
Yeah.
can paint a picture for
It's
you,
it's like the field at the new White Hart Lane, like
I'm
yeah,
imagining
yeah,
like okay,
chewing
so
gum,
in the Blair
Twix, and
Witch
yeah.
Project, when they're like, "Oh, we think we're lost. What's going on?" and then you see those little like ornaments,
Hmm.
those twigs tied
Yep.
together, hanging from the trees, very
Hmm.
ominous. That's basically every Chelsea defender is like one of those twig bundles, like from the Blair Witch Project. That's
Yeah,
how
that's
I view them.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I think they're basically what I'm trying to say is I think Chelsea's defense is stinks. Uh, and this is
Yeah.
why I'm planning to start Mbomo against them and would not endorse a move to get a Chelsea defender.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with that, I should say. I mean, the other move, I suppose, if I don't know, it's tricky. I mean, if Gabriel is healthy, then obviously he's a great start for this match. Let's see, I have how much money do I have in the bank? I've got 1.1 million in the bank. So I think, gosh, it just depends on how much his price changes over the next. Oh, Const's down to 4.4. That's
I
ridiculous.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so disrespectful. He's had a fine season, fine
I know.
fantasy season.
Yeah. I now think I'm probably priced out of I don't think I could get Timber anymore. I think he's gone. He's too expensive now. Timber's at 5.6. Nope, I'm already short. So the Timber move is out now,
Okay.
sadly. He was very active too. I think that he's a great buy. I mean, I could make
I
a
liked his
couple.
performance against Fulham, and it's sort of like what we were talking about last week of how it was sort of deceptive. He's not Ben White because Ben White is Mr. Overlap and Timber is Mr. Tuck Inside,
Right.
and he is just becoming more and more engaged in that attack, which you'd like to see.
So that's where I am. I'm a little I'm still just sort of thinking things through basically. But having two
Yeah.
transfers and 1 million in the bank is a nice luxury. And so I'll probably just, especially because like if I could get Timber right now, and uh, then that might actually be the most sensible move, right? And just keep another transfer carried over again.
Okay.
But because we don't know what's going on with him, or we don't know what's going on with Gabriel, I feel
Yeah.
like I've got to
Wait.
just wait.
So I guess just on that, what do you are you talking about a Arsenal defensive double up like you would want Timber plus Gabriel?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a great time to do it,
Yeah.
especially hosting
Yeah.
Everton,
Right.
right? So,
Agreed.
so that's where I am. Where are you at heading to
Sure.
Game
Yeah.
Week
I'll put my
16?
team up on screen if you're watching the YouTube. And I feel like for me, this is a week to roll. Uh, and uh, I have like decent fixtures, decent home fixtures for everyone. As I suggested, I'm kind of like advocating for Mbomo over Morgan Rogers. Like that is the sort of like the midfield rotation that a lot of people are dealing with. And Rogers, like it's just like surprises me every game week that he starts because I mean he's had a great season, but he's starting every game in every competition. And how long can that go on
Yeah.
for? And then you look at Mbomo and you're like, oh, I have such certainty that you will be
Yeah.
there for me.
Given, given that you still have a wild card and you're going to have to use in the next couple weeks,
Yeah.
if I were to offer a suggestion, I think a more aggressive move would be to uh, consider dropping Delap and bringing in possibly a Wolves attacker. Like if you could, like getting Strand Larson for a week or two, I think would be a possible one for you to consider for Game Week 16.
Sure. Yeah, I like Wolves' attack. I do think though that Wolves' defense is really bad, and they give up a lot of opportunities. When you just look at what Craig Dawson did midweek
Yeah.
in Game Week 14. Of all the fixtures, Delap is really kind of disappointed the last couple of game weeks. And you're not going to get something from him every game week for sure. But this is a fixture. If there was a fixture for Delap, I feel
Yeah.
like it would be this one, and I don't know that
I guess that's true. Four
Strand
blanks.
Larson is
Yeah.
an upgrade on him just for this 1 week.
4 blanks in a row, though. I mean, that is that, it's starting
Sure.
to feel like, or maybe if it wasn't, I mean, I do think that Strand Larson would be an upgrade just because Ipswich are also quite poor
Yeah.
defensively. You could also consider Evan Olsen at the
Yeah.
Bournemouths. Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing a couple
No, yeah,
ideas
no,
out there. Yeah.
I think these are good suggestions, and I think that's the right mentality of because I am going to have to trigger this wild card in the next
Yeah.
2 to 3 game weeks. It's
Exactly.
the perfect opportunity to be aggressive and to do
Right.
something
Because the
like
value of
that.
holding your transfer is just
Yeah.
inherently less, right? When you're already going to have an opportunity to
Sure.
remake everything in a couple of weeks.
Sure. And you can like I think with Delap, I have fallen in love with him a bit because of the good times that we've had. Like if I had
Yeah.
never owned Delap, I would have this cold read of Delap of like
My
fine,
current read. Yeah, exactly.
just
Yeah.
like fine, whatever, not
Yep.
interested. And
Yep.
I
Yep.
certainly wouldn't be interested if I wasn't an owner. But you don't know him the way I know him.
It's true. I haven't spent I haven't gone I haven't been through it with him the way you have.
we've seen
Yeah.
we've seen some
Yeah.
stuff. We've seen
Yeah.
some stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
and then there is just the small matter of João Pedro. I guess we've already talked about the cat's tail and all that. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
like we've all made our João Pedro bed for the second or third time this season. We just have
Yep.
to keep going
Owned to
with it.
Palace, pretty good match. I mean,
Yeah.
or pretty good fixture.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, one last well, so yeah, okay. So yeah, one question and then we'll do some captain picks, okay, to wrap things
Sure.
up here.
Let's do it. Yep.
The Stephen Curtis asks, is Jackson a hold or sell back to Isak? Says I went Isak to Jackson 14 for Southampton. Since then, Jack's got a bench at 2.86 on a roll. Thoughts long term?
If you have nothing else to do in your team, no other priorities, sure, I would go Isak, no problem. Like this is
Yeah.
be an active fantasy manager. Isak, even though Newcastle are just like on an every other week at best cadence of looking good,
Yeah.
Isak looks good virtually every week.
Yeah.
So
He's a frustrating player for sure. I mean, like, I don't know why I think we said this on the pod a couple weeks ago. It's like he is correctly priced. Like he goes in these runs,
yeah,
and it's like you start to think when you bring him in that you're buying Cole Palmer or whatever, right? You're buying like a kind of
yeah.
mega FPL talent.
Right.
Whereas what you're buying is a very good forward who just will not show up like
Yeah.
2 out of every 4 game weeks. And that's sort of just how it's going to be.
And can be limited a little bit by his team,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah. So let's look ahead now to the captaincy. So Arsenal host Everton. I'm just like looking at top picks here, right? So Saka, Arsenal host Everton, Liverpool host Fulham. I suppose you could throw Isak in there as well, but I think realistically, you and I wouldn't be going that way.
No.
And I mean, you have the Manchester Derby on Sunday. Holland scored. Didn't necessarily paint the most convincing picture, I thought, but he did get a goal. And
It's the
yeah,
age old. I mean, it was the age old. It's the argument against Holland. It's just like what he did. He scored a goal and got 2
yeah,
points. He scored
yeah,
8 points.
yeah.
This is not 15 million of your
No,
budget.
he definitely didn't, and he didn't seem like he had as much fun like he did when he was losing to Liverpool. He was in a
Yeah,
great
right,
mood
right,
that
right,
day.
right,
Felt like he was having a
yeah,
tougher time
yeah.
with this in this draw.
Uh-huh.
So, and then you have Palmer, Chelsea hosting Brentford. So to me, I think there are two prime captaincy picks this week, and I think that's Liverpool hosting Fulham, so Mo Salah, and then Chelsea hosting Brentford, Cole Palmer. And uh, I actually think that Cole Palmer might be a slightly better pick in fantasy, and it's mostly because of Brentford's just I think their relative shakiness relative to Fulham, that is, makes them a slightly more inclined to do some of the kinds of things that Spurs did today, right? There are
Yeah.
a lot of players in Chelsea who like to get in the box, capable of drawing a foul, right? So it might be a little easier for them to get some kind of cheap. Like, I don't think Fulham's going to beat themselves. It's in this match, I think they'll probably lose, right? But it could be like a 2-0 Liverpool win, a 2-1 Liverpool win, whereas you could just see Brentford stepping on some rakes, right? And like sort of losing like 4-0 or something like that, or 4-1, right? And Solo and Bomo out of nothing, counterattack goal, and then 4 other goals from Chelsea
Sure.
along the way.
Yeah.
So and Brentford are also good enough that like they're gonna play this match, right? Like Brentford are not a real like they don't even really have the personnel to do it, right? But they're not like a park the bus kind of team, right? Like Brentford are not going to put 10 guys behind the ball, like, or it's just not like what they're
No.
gonna, so I don't know,
No.
or 10 in the box, I should say.
The one thing you would say additionally about the Liverpool Fulham match is that Bassey got his 5th yellow card against Arsenal, which means he'll miss the Liverpool match. So
Yeah.
you're already and
Yep.
Joachim Anderson, he's got a calf strain. Maybe he's back for the Liverpool match, but then he'd have to prepare with Diop. So it's still like you're not getting your best center back partnership for Fulham. And if Anderson is not fit to play against Liverpool, that means it's Diop plus kind of a very green Spanish center back and Cuenca. So
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
I I wonder if that is a problem for Fulham away from home.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it
It is. I mean,
probably
like
is. Yeah.
Bassey has not like been an elite center back this season, but like going back to the Arsenal offside goal, like he
Yeah.
basically has his head about him. Like he is basically running that back line in
Yep.
Anderson's absence, and if with him out, I just feel like it increases the threat opportunity for Liverpool attack.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that's a good wrinkle. I mean,
It
so
is.
I've sort of laid out my slight preference for Cole Palmer. I do think that we're almost at the point where we can think of him and Salah in like almost equal terms, right? Salah's still got the longer track record, has been a little more consistent this season. Didn't play this last weekend, and so maybe it's easier again
Yeah.
to consider other candidates, right? And if he had done what he has been doing recently and gotten a goal and an assist or something like that, then maybe we're not even having much of a debate right now. But also, they will have played at midweek, right? You said that
Yeah.
they're away as well, right?
Yes. They are
So
away.
so it's an away match, followed by a home match on Saturday, right? So not as much rest as
Yeah.
as normal.
They're
So
away Girona on Tuesday, so it's Tuesday
Wednesday,
to
Thursday.
Saturday for Liverpool.
Yeah, so not like certainly not terrible. But still, like whereas Palmer will just be sitting I don't think he'll even train this week, Brendan. I think he sits on a couch for 7 full days
Staring into the
and
middle distance with his
Mhm.
mouth agape.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Letting that hair grow longer, keep
Wow,
that fryer
what
tucked.
a head of hair he's
Imagine him with
got there.
really long hair, like, but like kind of like greasy tail. Like imagine if his hair was like Trent Reznor. It was like kind of like not quite dreadlocks, but real like
Oh,
in
he
big
did they had
mop
the
a
old
bit.
school like late 90s like with like a shoelace headband around it.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool.
Very
Yeah, that
cool.
would be cool. Like a Beckham
Frankie
style.
Haydock
Like,
style.
yeah. Okay, I like this. Yeah. So, and I was thinking 90s, right? Yeah, I'm like, I just pulled up Resner now. I mean, now he's like a short hair. He looks like Henry Rollins now. He's like,
Yeah,
it's
he's a
like a
suit.
different. Yeah,
Resner
he's
is
a
now.
suit.
He's winning
Yeah,
awards and all this
that's
kind of
true.
stuff.
Sold out to the man.
Yeah, it's funny. Like Salah and Palmer are in that same space of like you can watch either of them play and you're like, I watched 45 minutes of this guy and I didn't get a lot of looks. The defense
Mm-hmm.
is sniffing out all of his opportunities, stymieing him,
Mm-hmm.
stymieing,
Stymieing. Yeah, it's a hard one to
stymieing.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then they'll just pop up. And Salah is just bang consistent with popping up and doing the fantasy thing. And Palmer this season, he has gone like the longest stretch was 3 weeks, admittedly, where he blanked. But still, you could watch the first half of that Spurs match and you think, well, I guess Palmer did have his chances. He just didn't take them. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a fire hose guy. I was telling you on the Patreon pod. He's a fire
Yeah.
hose guy. When he's not on, it's just a dripping faucet, and when he's
Yeah.
on, he'll blow you down.
I think they're both great picks. I think if you want to be a little bit riskier, then I think I like him. And I think if you want to be a slight, and I mean, again, I'm not like saying you're some like conservative drone if you do this, but like if you want to be slightly more conservative, I think that Salah's the safest pick, certainly
Mhm.
with the highest floor. And then I do think that Saka will be third, just because it does seem like they have it. They still even I thought they were sort of looking better out of the international break, but you can see in that Fulham match today. There are times when it feels like they are not synced up in their attack, and
Yeah.
there's another example.
Jorginho's a weird one. Like starting with him against Fulham,
He's like
he's
40. It's like, I mean,
I
and I'm so
wasn't going to
ageist
mention
on this
his age,
pod.
but just
Yeah.
like he's
Yeah.
just not dynamic.
Yeah.
He's not dynamic enough for what they need.
Yeah.
And Marino, I just like the fact that they still haven't integrated Marino fully into that squad has got to be infuriating for Arsenal
Yeah.
fans.
I know. Well, this match was another like example. Like I joked on Blue Sky earlier today. It's my second Blue Sky reference. It's like we should get paid, man. I should stop. I should
Surely,
just say a social media network until we start getting
yeah,
that
no free ads.
sweet ad dollars.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I was joking that you can always tell when a match is going badly for Arsenal when Declan Rice is taking every shot. It's like he I don't I mean credit to him for like trying to take the match by the scruff of its neck, but it's like I always know when Arsenal are in trouble because like, oh wow, there's Declan Rice again.
Mm-hmm.
Like just like
Doing
oh,
hero ball.
yeah, doing hero ball. Exactly. It's usually not a good sign,
It's like
unfortunately.
trying to paint the league title on a single grain of rice, you
Wow.
might say.
Yeah, that's you sound like some of the Premier League commentators that we're blessed to hear
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. Well, thank you for being a friend. Travel down that road and back again.
Absolutely.
Let's sign off this week, Brandon. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. If you want to become a supporter of the podcast, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/always cheating. If you want to chat with us, you can do that on the Patreon Discord. You can email us, hailcheaters@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Blue Sky. We're always cheating FPL on Blue Sky. Brendan, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Absolutely. As always, big thanks to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner Lodahl, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Bobbas Kuhn, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, as he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fro Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, the three Jims, James Murraywood, James C., and James Holland. God, James, I really feel for you as an Ipswich fan right now. Like,
Yeah, that's a
it's
tough match.
lots
I
of
know.
baits
It's
and
funny.
switches
I
here.
I had them on the running order too, and then I actually did skip it because I was like, like they
Yeah.
don't need it. They don't need it right
Yeah,
now.
don't
Yeah.
kick them while they're
Yeah.
down. And of course,
Yeah.
producers Scully, Craig at Total Mass Tutoring, and Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Josh, I'll talk to you on the Patreon pod later this week.
That sounds good. Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye. Oh, it was a good pod this week.
Yeah, I thought so too. What's going on here? Yes, totally. Yeah, some swagger to it.
Yeah.